Students, welcome back to Buddy. And today we will listen to chapters 11 and 12. But let's first review Buddy chapter 10 notes. Remember that little T had to cut the grass not only at Grandpa T's house, which is the house where he's living, but also Mrs. Washington's grass, her lawn. Mrs. Washington asked him to read a letter from her nephew who's stationed in Iraq. And Mrs. Washington pays little T $5 for cutting the grass, and then all of a sudden little T makes a new plan. And I asked you, what do you think his plan is going to be? I look over at Buddy's food bag. All of a sudden, I have an idea, and one more time, I'm making a plan. So I'm making the connection that if Mrs. Washington's willing to pay him money to cut her lawn, perhaps he can start cutting lawns around the neighborhood and earn money as well. Did you make that guess? Were you able to make that inference? Okay, let's look into chapters 11 and 12. Grandpa T says, I can use the mower. Mama says, it's all right with her, so long as I don't go too far. Daddy says, it's fine, but I have to pay him some more for the gas. Tanya says, I can use her markers to make my signs. The next day, I sit down at the table and start making signs. Tanya wants to help, but she still makes some of her letters backwards, so nobody can read anything she writes. Jamila would have been a big help, but there ain't nothing I can do about that. So all by myself, I make up a whole pile of signs that say, I'll mow a lawn for $5. I put our phone number on them. Then I start walking the streets looking for houses to leave them at. Most of the people I know, I always knock on the door, and if nobody answers, I just leave it in the mailbox. Sometimes somebody comes to the door. At J Boy's house, his mama comes to the door in her nightgown. I give her the note, and she looks at it and says, ain't you J Boy's friend? And I say, yes. And she says, do I know where he is? And I say, no. Then she shuts the door. By the time I get home, 2 people have already called, and all of a sudden, I'm in business. What are you going to call your company? Grandpa T says. Little T's lawn mowing service, I say. Grandpa T nods. Got a ring to it, he says. Why doesn't J Boy's mother know where J Boy is? What's going on with J Boy? The very next day, I take the lawnmower out and tell Buddy goodbye and head off down the street. I mowed 3 different lawns. I've got 3 $5 bills sitting in my pocket, and every single one of those people said for me to come back next week. I'm rolling my lawnmower back to the house, and I'm thinking maybe somebody else has called while I was gone. When I look up, and I see J Boy walking up the sidewalk. We ain't talked since school let out. Sup, he says. He don't smile or nothing. Not much, I say. So, are you mowing those lawns? He says. I nod. The sweat's rolling into my eyes, and I wipe it out. That's hard work for slow money, he says. Money's money, I say, and look down at the lawnmower. It's got new grass all stuck on the sides. The rubber gripping part under my hands is starting to work loose. J Boy takes one finger and rubs it across under his nose. I can't help it. I see he's starting a mustache. So, where is that dog? He says. He's in the back. Do you want to see him? We stand there another second. J-Boy is looking off down the street. He hikes up his pants a little. Well, you don't have to if you don't want to, I say. I'll come. He follows me through the gate while I'm pushing the lawnmower to the back. We turn the corner around the house, and there's Buddy standing in the door of the shed, his tail wagging back and forth. Hey, Buddy, I say, and drop on my knees in front of him. You miss me? You miss me, boy? I'm rubbing his head. He's licking my face. His whole body's shaking. He's so glad to see me. This is J-Boy, I say to Buddy, from down the street. J-Boy's hanging back. His hands are shoved into his pockets. Buddy's looking at him and grinning. He likes you, I tell J-Boy. You can pet him if you want to. J-Boy don't move. He's just looking at Buddy with his eyes squinched up. It's okay, I say. He don't bite. Did he get into a fight? J-Boy says. I rub my finger across Buddy's scar. I guess, I say. That was there when we found him. Buddy takes one limping step toward J-Boy, and J-Boy steps back. What happened to his leg? When we hit him with the car, it broke so bad they had to cut it off. Buddy's tail is whacking against the door frame, so I move over a little bit. Buddy limps along with me, and now his tail's free to swing wide. He can't hardly walk, J-Boy says. He's walking fine, I say. He just don't go far. You sold your Game Boy so you could get that piece of a dog? I turn around and there's J-Boy with his lip all curled up. If I get me a dog, he says, I'll get me a whole dog. I'm just staring at J-Boy. I always knew you were a fool, he says. Now everybody else knows it too. He turns around and walks back around the house to the front yard. I hear the gate squeal and bang when he slams it open. I sit down. I'm smelling the cut up grass stuck on the lawn mower and the gas fumes leaking out. I'm feeling the little rocks under my butt and the wood behind my back where I'm leaning against the shed. Then Buddy sticks his cold nose in my ear. He licks my face. He's whining just a little bit. He limps one step closer and lays down with his head in my lap. My hand goes to his head. I smooth back his fur, and he looks up at me with his caterpillar eyebrow cocked to one side. He's waiting for me to talk, but I can't think of nothing to say. Okay, students, I told you that we would be covering chapters 11 and 12. I'm going to stop at 11, okay? And the notes for chapter 11 are on the same page. So I'll just repost, chapter 11 and 12 notes when we do chapter 12. Okay, just remember they're on the same page. I will rewrite the stop and jot questions so that they're for separate chapters. So we're stopping today at chapter 11. Okay.